highlight this particular live. And even more importantly, goal is to do about 5 or 6 with Chris as he closes out his chapter of dog breeding. But I want to do first one. Let me slow down by saying this. I think Chris is probably the only person who has just as much information about line breeding relative to Chris Moore. Now, Chris Moore, we know meshes and maxes and puts things together, and he'll tell you exactly how stuff's going to look. But Chris created a look that is consistent for over 10 years. So when I myself want to learn more about line breeding, out crosses and things. I've read every book. I got the books. I'm gonna do a whole video and shortly. These 2 books are my favorite, but there's nothing like talking to a resource who has tons of experience. Tell you stories about the good, the bad, the ugly, where it went wrong, how to dial it in, and things that we're going to leverage in the future. So, Chris, for one, thank you a ton for jumping on here with me, man. As always, it's good seeing you. Glad that you're still rocking. We'll get into the end journey at another time, but I wanted to highlight your education and what you know, man. So, guys, I would tell you if you are at home, I've got myself a blank sheet of paper and a pen. I myself as well, like I do. If you've watched any of those old Chris Moore videos, there you go. See, look, I didn't even know he had that. Like you watch those Chris Moore videos when I'm at Chris's house. I've got a notepad and I'm there taking notes while on camera to make sure I don't miss anything because these guys are some of the best in the space. You guys call it a game. I call it the space where people get to put great dogs in great homes. And Chris literally cares about making sure the dogs come out healthy. And I know he does as well. So, my man, first and foremost, if someone's starting a breeding program today, do they buy a male or a female?
Start your program with a female. Um, I mean, there's different scenarios why, but the main reason why, if you're going to breed, you can always purchase semen, and the male can be younger than the female because you have to think about you got to wait until at least her third heat. So you're looking at least a year and a half, sometimes 2 years even to hit that third heat, depending on the female. They don't always go in heat to 6 8 months. Some females have their first heat at 1 year, so that puts you back into about a year and a half.
Issue from them not having it at the 9 month and then being 2 years. I've been there 18 months. You say, what the fuck is wrong with this dog?
Never, I never did like the data on why that is. I have tried to notice and see if the dogs are bigger or smaller, whatnot, because obviously we know smaller breeds will go in heat earlier, sooner than others. We're talking like 6 months, 5 6 months old for little
Oh, for
exotics
sure.
and all that.
For
Um,
sure. And you
but
know
it's
what,
yeah,
people, that
they
could
all
be.
turn out to be the same size, so that's that. I'm not kind of dumbfounded on that factor.
I don't think you just made it make sense to me personally. When we look at the hormones and the endocrine system for your larger breeds, it takes anywhere from 16 to 18 months for it to develop. So, even Dr. Karen Becker talked about making sure you don't spay a dog before 2 years so that the hormones can fully get into effect. Well, 12-year-old girl, 13, 14-year-old girls nowadays, the hormones start, basically locking in and formulating. And then keep this in mind. Women probably know more about this than I probably ever will, unless I go read all the books. But you got women who go through puberty and then have their first period, and that in itself, endocrine system's rocking. Then they go through menopause, the endocrine system says, "Hey, we're done here." They go, "Hey, no more kids, no more nothing. We are completely done here." So it's two different extremes. So I would, now that Chris has brought that to light, I would say it's probably due to the fact that the system's not fully developed and rendered itself
Yep.
prepared to have pups.
The bigger dogs, and it takes longer to develop, and in an easier sense for people to understand. I sponsored a Great Dane, with some hip and joints, just to kind of go over a few factors of that size thing. It grew so fast, so quickly. By 8 months old, she literally thought she was gonna have to put the dog down, and she was at a training class with someone that had a dog for me as well, and they were talking about my supplements from Lavish Paws, and she said, I've tried everything. I've gone to vets. I'm scared that they told me that, they're giving this medicine and change the food and, less carbs and all kinds of different factors. But long story short, put on the hip and joint, and not to show that it worked, but in 3 to 4 weeks, in 3 weeks, he was literally getting off the bed, running around. And mind you, this dog wouldn't even get off the bed, and she would walk right up to him, talk to him super nice. Come on, let's go, buddy. Let's get up. Um, in 4 weeks, he started running around, the joints connected. So that's another thing. These dogs get super tall. You got these joints are like this, wiggling around, and they're not. People think just because a dog is tall that they're grown. They're not, still babies. With the hormone factor, that same dog, 2.5 years old, she neutered him, and she came out with all these hives all over him. He was breaking out with blisters, and they're bleeding, and she didn't know what was wrong. So I reached out to her because she hadn't bought supplements in a while, and I said, "Hey, is any chance everything going all right with Shaq?" And she says, not really. This factor and this thing happened, and he's been breaking out. We've gone to vet. Long story short, she says she spent almost $6,000 at the vet trying to figure out what was wrong. And she says, I said, "Did you fix him?" She says, "Yeah, I just neutered him." I said, "This occurred after?" "Yes." So there it goes. 2.5-year-old dog that's 30 inches to the weathers, still was growing internally, a lot of hormone factors, and literally got neutered too young, and messed the immune system up. And I put him on some probiotics of mine. In 14 days, everything cleared up. So, people gotta watch out when you're neutering these dogs really young. You don't know it, and you're just taking vets' opinions, but be careful. Be careful because your longevity, you're gonna ruin the dog's life.
Spaying and neutering, Dr. Karen Becker, she cries and talks about how she used to high pressure people when she first started into getting the dogs fixed, and learned that not only does it increase the risk of behavioral issues, gut problems potentially, but definitely increase the risk of cancer as well. And you don't want to pay that bill. I mean, it's an easy 6,000, easy 6,000. And what Chris is saying too is literally, I'm mapping our next 10 years of communication rooted in speaking to the pet parents who have pups. You either got kids or seniors, and you're super concerned when they're seniors. You're super concerned when they're kids. Somewhere like everybody, when they're from six to, if you got real kids, I don't, but if they were like 6 to like 13, you're like, they'll be fine. Once they get in high school, you start getting concerned again. You go, here we go, this bullshit. And then you're back on the parenting thing heavy, depending on kind of what's going on in your life. So with the pups, I'm like, everybody's concerned with year one, technically year two, if we're talking large breeds. And we're super concerned at the end of life because you go, dude, I don't want this fucker to go this soon. So you got to prevent. And that's through education, which Chris is here to provide, us with just some experience and stuff he's learned. And it costs. Tell me, every choice you make costs you something, and that should get expensive.
Growth hormones, when you can breed them, when you can't, all those factors determine what type of breed they are. And in the bully world, which we're not in, but a lot of people breeding different bulls breeds into their dogs, and then nothing's consistent with all that, and everybody's confused. And then what happens is something happens health wise, and they're pointing at the breeder like they fucked up, and maybe they did, but it's not that. It's literally, you have to know what you.
And when we came in, myself back into the American Bully world, I said, man, I'm gonna help them do it right. And unfortunately, it's just not gonna. That's not gonna happen because people are gonna want to keep adding all types of things to the formula to exaggerate features, but every exaggeration cost the dog something in terms of quality of life. And I don't really, yeah, I don't want to participate in that, and I never was. We still ain't, to be clear. I was like this. I told you I want a three-finger snoot that's gonna help the breathing. I want a dog who's got clearly good movement. I like them when they're 17 inches and up, just because of the things that we like to do. I think people. There's a video of an American Bully. He basically had hands, his legs as long as my hand, and
Yeah.
he falls off of a curb. I'm like, ha ha ha. I'm like, bro, that ain't funny. He
Oh,
can't even
jeez.
get off the curb. Stifles is so stiff that he's putting out too much energy. His heart's probably overexerting. He ain't gonna make it to five. You pay $12,000 for a dog who ain't gonna make it to five because his organs are working, and he had a
Yeah.
90-degree snoot, so he can't even breathe. You go, nope. Chris, back to the line breeding, man, because we can go down that rabbit hole. Guys, don't worry, I will. But but when you're doing a line breeding, you get your female, you buy some semen. What do you do next after the breeding? You do the breeding. What do you keep from that first breeding with your female after she's had her third heat or 2 years old?
There's so many things that I've learned by having multiple litters, but I was at first told, "Oh, keep the biggest pup, the out of the litter and cone that, or keep it in your program." And not necessarily the biggest pup turns out the best, And obviously, you want function, athletic seed, and joint movement, all that. But I would typically keep a first male, first female is what I do now, and then I will audit with the papers, to a corner partner or whatnot with papers, breeding rights, and then I will keep one of the pet pups, a male and a female that's a pet, sold to a pet, to a family, and I will keep the breeding rights to those dogs, but they don't have the papers. In that sense, I've been able to develop and not only grow the program, but see the consistency of throughout the lineage, because I'm getting texts, calls, and all that, keeping in touch with them for over the years. So I get to see the development of a pup that was landed at sixth pick compared to the first pick that I chose. And I can't show you now, man. The consistency is beautiful. Thank God with the things we've been doing, I've been able to breed both of them. Um, but options, keeping your options open. To answer the question, keep your options open. If you're selling males, it don't take. I mean, I collect the semen and freeze them myself right here. I can ship it all out. It's no big deal. But even if you're using a vet, a pet family can take that male down to the vet, get his semen collected, and bounce in 30 minutes and have no headaches. You cover all the fees, and now you're building up your stock of all your best studs, and now you have breedings from all your best studs collected for future use. You may not
Now,
use them
slow
next
down
year.
real
You may
quick,
not use them in 5 years.
and but slow down real quick. In your experience, what's the number one value add a male adds to a female program wise? Because I'm going to walk these guys through my situation, but and because we often get caught up, not all of us, and man, look what this male's going to do, and you're like, no, he's not. Unless he's a Sin City male, he's not going to do shit. Let me be very clear and saying that again. When people ask me, hey man, what the bloodline of them dogs is, I'll be like, my nigga, go fucking type in American bullies. Look at all the goddamn American bullies. Which bully looks the same? Stop it. Don't talk about me no
Yeah,
bloodlines. When you go to Sin City and back in the day when they were Gray Line and Tony and all those guys doing what they were doing, there
yeah,
was consistency. You knew what you were getting. You knew what would be passed along, and you knew what features could be exaggerated because of the parents. And this could
sure,
Rock
yeah, yeah,
Ruby,
yep,
Rockzilla,
yep.
all those old school bloodlines because guys were like hyper focused on even Razor's Edge,
Yeah, that
hyper
Razor Edge was
focused.
probably the tightest line there ever was. Gotti was really tight. I mean, those lines are crazy tight. You always knew exactly what you get, and that disappeared really quick
There
when
you
the
have it.
reports
So
started coming out.
here's that's what I want you to, if you can, because when you start off, when you do your first breeding, you buy it from a guy, maybe he's got a good pedigree, you're still gonna learn if that thing is in fact. So let's say you start off, do you still keep the three dogs? I wrote it down. I wrote it down because look, you say, hey, one male, one female, and then a pet access to a pet pup, somebody who didn't want, breeding rights. Do you still keep that dog
Yeah.
if you are just starting off with your first female?
It depends how he turns out. This is a big timing thing. You have to wait until the dogs, develop at least a year old. For me, I can kind of tell by these dogs are funky. I mean, people text me at like 8, 9 months old, like, "Oh my god, man, his face is all skinny. Like, you sure this dog's gonna look like your dog? Like, is this the parents?" I'm like, "Yeah, it's called a funky stage. These dogs get tall, they're thin, and by after 12 months old, then they start filling out, getting your girth. Their cheeks come in, their head pops. By 2 years old, year and a half, 2 years old, they look phenomenal." So somebody's going to buy a female, you want to wait till that dog start developing because there's so many different lines out there. You need to see what your dog's going to turn into, and then we're talking about not getting a dog for me. We're just saying you get a dog female from whatever breeder. You need to see and wait for that dog to get at least a year, year and a half to develop. And then you'll know what traits you need to pull and what add to it to change what you want to change. That dog might turn out to be 20 inches tall and 140 pounds. You don't know. It could be the run. Just because there's a run doesn't mean it's going to not turn out to be the biggest. I've seen and I've had myself runts turn out to be the biggest of litters. I've had runts where you thought they were going to be 65 pounds to turn out to 100. You just don't know. You don't know. There's a lot of factors that go into that, and we won't get into that, but you definitely want to wait till the dog develops, but keep doing those things that you have that litter. You want to keep that male that's a pet, because if that dog turns out to be a phenomenal stud by a year and a half old, you better bet your ass you better get that dog collected and store that, and always have that on your facility.
When a female has a litter, she's considered to be proven. Oh, is she proven? Proven meaning she can get pregnant and have pups. In your case, when do you know, after how many breedings and pups, that a male is considered or can be considered a producer?
uh at least one, but you got to wait till the productions are at least a year and a half old, because if they didn't turn out like their parents, or they turn out smaller, they don't have the similar traits that they have, or the traits that you are trying to add or double up on they don't have. Then you have to go backwards and say, where did the problem dissolve? Was it the dad? Was it the mom? Now you got to do another breeding and see, what I mean? So it's a science. It's not consistent, but you definitely have to wait till the dogs are older. And it does, because a dog has litters doesn't mean it's proven. And I know that gets thrown all over the web everywhere. She's proven or he's proven. Well, no shit, almost any dog can have pups. I've literally have never had a female not be able to get pregnant. I've had complications. I haven't took a lot longer, and that comes to what we were talking about earlier. It
Yeah,
may be the third. It might not be the third heat. It may be the fourth or fifth when that dog is ready.
yeah.
There's a lot of factors you can go in, do psychology reports, and make sure that they're ovulating correctly, do progesterones. Even if you're not breeding the dog, you want to make sure the dog ovulated the heat before. Things like that. But yeah, you definitely want to make sure the dog is at least a year plus old before you start deciding who you're going to breed it to next and what traits you want to pull or add to or double up on.
Trait you look for, one or two traits, maybe three, that you look for from each one of your males when you're pairing a male and a female together.
Athleticy, because athleticy is a very very strong trait, um, and it's very passive. Most of my dogs have double hip muscle joints, or double how do you say it? Double muscle genes.
What is
Um,
that? That people, that is the myostatin gene. For those that don't know what that is, I
so I
I
have
look.
zero hip dysplasia problems.
The double muscle gene actually prevent hip problems, is what you're saying.
Of doing that, and I've seen in the DNA two copies, two copies, two copies. I bred dogs with two and two, and now I got four copies, and I still have dogs. I mean, that had the litter I did that has four copies is now 8 years old, and no issues at all.
Has a double muscle gene, and Chris Moore, the one who told me about it. So we've had to make an adjustment to ensure that we capitalize on it. So one of the reasons why I'm doing this with Chris, and get this, I'll do another one with Chris Moore as well, because Beast of the East is coming up. Is I think there's a group of people who still want to learn about breeding, and we're going to breed for the next um, 20 years for me. Just keep it American Bully. I'm always going to be a pit bull, American Bully type guy. So they're not going to go anywhere. But
Mhm.
I don't want to. And let me make sure I say this on camera too. And I'm got to do a whole video on it, guys. Where I didn't get these new breeds to make some crazy new dog. That ain't happening. I love the
Yeah,
fact
yeah.
that great breeders exist and good information is out there. And if you followed my page for however long we've been here, which is since about 2019, then I've gone out of my way to highlight amazing breeders who do great things and take care of their dogs. And get this,
Yeah.
they weren't, I think the majority of them aren't even American Bully people. They were just dog guys. And I love good old dog men who just hang with their dogs. So you're saying, okay, we keep a male, a female, another one. The boy, he adds, you're looking for athleticism passed on. Is there something you measure to ensure each dog or the pups over time are considered or can be considered athletes or athletic?
what your question means. What do you mean by that?
Them fuckers can't walk 2 miles. So and I'm not saying that's athletic. To be clear, your dog should be able to walk a mile at least, in my opinion, of course. And it shouldn't be no fucking stroller when you're at a dog show, and it shouldn't be overheating in the dog ring, which has happened at the national show. I've been there, I've recorded, I've got it, all the footage. So when I look at
The typical issues that these bully guys have. So I don't have hip dysplasia problems. I don't have elbow dysplasia problems. I don't have loose skin issues. I don't have dogs exhausting and dying from 90-degree weather. I all my dogs have never had problems walking 4 7 mile hikes with me and the wife and all them. So these things are a lot of things that a lot of people are correcting in their dogs and other breeds. We don't have those issues.
what are you talking about? Unhealthy dogs. Where the fuck did they do that at? He's like, athleticism. Everybody can walk 2 miles. What the shit? That's how I be feeling when somebody brings a dog over, or wants to see something. I'm like, they just like this. Man, my dog. I'm like this. Get him out of here. I'm like, we have to tell people like, hey man, can I come meet up with you at the park? And I said, listen, if your dog ain't conditioned for this, bro, it'll die. It will literally die. Like if you don't have he don't have the heart. Your heart's a muscle, people, and it takes 2 years for a heart to fully formulate. And we're outside. Shout out to my guy Chris Moore, because he said he called me when Ego passed. He said, "Man, look, I'm sorry about Ego." He said, "But he said, I tell you one thing. I know that fucker had a good heart." I said, I laughed. I said, "Chris, what you?" He said, "Because your ass was." He called me a couple times. He said, "Motherfucker, you trying to kill that dog?" I said, "No, I'm just trying to see what he can." He said, "Put that fucker up." Hey, I'm like this. I'm just testing to see what he's capable of, buddy. Because I know I found where the line was at. To be clear, one time I said, "Oh, this motherfucker will check out today," but he lived, and so he died from natural. Guys. So you basically, let me ask you this: do males pass on more traits, even aesthetically speaking, to the males or females? Which dog gets more of their father's traits? And I know it's a 50-50 toss up, but you have more information if anybody does, because you have an exact look with an exact style with an exact dog who could do exactly what you say it could do every time. So what's
Yeah.
that look like?
So in my reads back before I kind of started this, I was told females produce 60 plus percentage, and I think you said Chris Moore said the same thing.
Yeah.
And it might be with different breeds, but I'll say with my breed specifically, it's definitely 50-50. It's definitely 50-50. And I see throughout the litters, because I'll get I'll say six puppies, and all six will have similar traits to both, but one may have an inch taller height than the other, than the mother, and they're both females. So it's so consistent that it's definitely 50-50 with us. Yeah. I mean, you get that monster or something out of the blue, you're like, oh, that dog looks like its grandpa. And that happens a lot too, where we get some of the traits. But you have to, if you think about it, those who see our pedigrees, it's all the same shit, besides our outcrossing. So yeah, they're going to look like the grandma and grandpa. I produced a dog, AZ, that looked like a dog named King Lion, and King Lion was his dad, or what Lion wasn't even his grandpa. He was like 4 generations, just like King Lion, more muscle, bigger cheeks, just more even near and the close to the pedigree.
Exactly. Now, guys,
But it's the same
don't
blood.
don't say
Came
no
from
stupid
the
shit on
same
here.
bloodline.
Don't say no stupid shit on here about ego, people. We posted every video down to the minute we put him down. When I almost thought he was gonna die, is because we was outside and he was
Oh
hanging
yeah.
from a pillow in goddamn 104-degree weather and wouldn't let go. So that dumb shit, everything that went with his journey was shot, captured, shown. And the people who give a fuck
Oh
about
yeah.
me, they actually call Chris. Even shout out to my boy LaFu that he said, Trevor, I had to turn it off, man. Almost took me to tears, bro. I know what that dog mean to you, so get the fuck out of here with that. And I normally don't address things like that, but that ego shit, every second down to the last vial was posted online. And people still
Yep.
thank me because they said, man, I went and looked at the lumps on my dog. You saved my dog's life. If I hadn't thought about that, the lumps on the back, I wouldn't even consider it. So fuck out of here with that, man. But at anywho, when we're talking about features, doubling up on
I'm
features,
gonna read these comments, man.
yeah. I normally don't, but there's some good people in here, man. Some huge supporters, and so when we do
I
lives.
probably would if I could get trying to. I was trying to get it on my computer, but I couldn't log in. So,
No, the computer's different. You can only go live like this normally on the phone with the YouTube's weird. It's weird. You got to use
oh no shit.
OBS if you're
Okay.
on the computer, and that allows you to stream. But we can go live together on the phone, which is fucking crazy. But we
Oh,
can't go
okay. So you
live,
couldn't even
so
get on a computer.
it's a clusterfuck of shit, man.
Oh,
But back to the breeding stuff. So you've got the male, the female. You're seeing the traits passed on that you want. You know how to read pedigrees. You know exactly where you got your dogs from and what they were doing. But now we're in our second generation. So we kept a male and a female. What do you breed next after the first breeding? Be it you said I'm gonna buy a female, start my breeding program. I'm gonna take her to some semen, find some semen, go from there, and then you turn around and go, now I got to keep all three of these dogs. What do you do next?
so I'd like to go at least 3 generations before I add in either a new blood on both sides or outcross. I've done all different scenarios, and I feel like that's worked best. Where I'm hitting 3 generations of the same lines, and then boom, I'll shock it the system and throw in another dog.
So this is you. So when you get your pedigree from that female, are you
Yeah,
doubling back over three generations to like bring people together to tighten things up
yeah,
real quick?
yeah, absolutely, yep, yeah, same line, same ancestors, which is same bloodline, and that's how I've been able to see the more consistency that I've been doing over the years. And then I throw. I mean, I've done some that was only 1 generation on both sides and outcrossed it, and I got some great dogs. I'm not gonna lie, but the most consistency I've developed was definitely 3 generations, and boom, smack it with some new blood and
Now
see
let me
what the
ask you this,
traits are
because
to those
let's
dogs.
paint a picture for these people. So I buy the female. I buy the female.
Yep,
I breed her to uncle or cousin.
correct.
Uncle or cousin. I buy my first female. I look at the pedigree. I go find two dogs back there, and I either take it to on either side, mom or dad, a cousin or uncle.
Yep.
And from there, after I take the female to a cousin or uncle, what do I do next?
Now you take that male to one of their uncles on the other side. So you're keeping the bloodlines consistent.
We'll take the male to a auntie or a cousin or some shit, right?
Yes, from their side. So you pull one from one side, and then you go to the other dog, the female, and you pull it from the other side, the same lines. Exact same thing you're doing, but you're doing it opposite. But those are all the same bloodlines. You're just doubling up. You just keep doubling it up, and by the time you do it the third time, everything from both grandparents and uncles have now came down, and they're super tight. Now you smack something with an outcross to that. And that's how you add new genes or a new trait or a new muscle tone or different head shape, wider shoulders, height. If you need height, you want to change one trait at a time.
And you add
Don't
by
try to
subtracting
change.
people. Add by
Don't
subtracting.
get 100-pound dog that's 23 inches tall and expect to get 160-pound dog that's 28 inches tall. You're adding too many traits. You're not. It's going to be all scattered. You're going to fuck it all up. It's a
Interesting.
very time sensitive uh, procedure.
Hey, I like that, man. So by the time you've done that, now you've got basically your second generation of dog. That breeding gives you your third dog objectively. So, guys,
Yes.
again, guys, my background. Somebody asked, what's my background? My background. I spent 15 years at the top of a. You can go look it up. A company called Natera. He owns 90 plus hospitals, and then I built something that I'm an ergonomic engineer with the emphasis on human mechanics. And so everything I know about human health, which is a whole shit ton, I said if I could transfer that to pets, which I've been obsessed with since I was 7 years old, we could be very interesting over, the next 10, 15 years. So even when we made the
Mhm.
adjustments to the next set of dogs, I said, which breeds could I build up, learn from, work with, and partner with people on for the next 10 years? If I had 10 years of work, which we all have 10 years of work in us, what are the dogs I need to help shape the world in my image and change the world relative to health? And guys like Chris, they have the information we need to make sure before I solve or help with any of your problems that we focus on health. And part of health when you're breeding or you're getting a dog from a person who breeds is knowing that they know what you're getting so it doesn't cost you a ton of money long term. As far as like early and late stages, you don't want to spend $60,000 to keep a dog alive because the person poorly bred it, right? But my background
Yep.
is high level health and education. So as you see, I'm good at navigating things, communicating effectively. I've obsessed about branding and marketing. I built a business that does branding and marketing for businesses, and that's what I do. That kind of pays quite a few of the bills, and that's that. So I can go shoot a video in 2 seconds, and they pay me a lot of money for that. And then of course a bunch of other things, but branding, teaching, educating, and then being at the right place at the right time. 10 years from now, realistically, about 18 months to 3 years, is where I think we're working on some stuff that's going to help change the world, and it's going to be one step at a time. But this guy right here, he's on his way out, and instead of starting with, "Hey man, why are you leaving the dog?" He's like, "No, let's make sure we highlight again business and plan. I'm good at strategic planning. Let me make sure you guys know how valuable this legend is I'm talking to, who's committed half of his life, or a good portion of a tenth of his life, to taking care of dogs, learning the business, sharing things, putting great dogs in great homes, and then get you to kind of like that closeout." But I'd rather make sure this exists for all of us to be a little bit better, long term, than not. And I don't think. Let me be very clear. I don't ever toot my own horn. I don't think anybody could ask better questions or navigate communication better than me. It's just not. It's the only person better than me is Oprah. That's how I look at it. Like if you're not Oprah Winfrey, you never gonna be this good at leading a conversation and making sure people are able to get what they have in their heads
Yeah.
than me. That's the only person I'm competing against is Oprah Winfrey, and she's done. So I'm like, this, oh, we straight, nigga. She ain't even in the game no more. I'm finna get all the way there. So I love that. And mind you, guys, this is COI, coefficients, known with 6.25% down to 12.5% to 20. You're doing that stuff, but that's too much science. The average person reads at a fifth and seventh grade level. So I would tell you, if you
Yeah.
want some help about branding and marketing, even saying words like business and profit, people don't know what that means because most people don't even budget. So you're like, hey, what did I make this month in my own after
P&L. How
working?
about that? P&L.
Yeah, oh,
What's a P&L?
profit and loss sheet. That's how. That's
There you
my
go.
point. So we have to simplify and pair things so that everybody can learn, and kind of stay tuned in. But that's a whole nother video. But at anywho, Chris, I love that. So now we get down to
We
our
went
third.
over there one time. I showed you all my P&Ls and
Oh yeah,
the
dude. Yeah,
breakdown.
we did the
Yeah.
video on it, bro. This Joker's spending way more money than I would. Uh, well, that's a lot, but he spends it and keeps track of it. Which again, he's running a real business, and it costs to run a business, and you need to know your costs. Otherwise, you're in the hole. You're in the red. And when you getting in the red and you stay there, it's very difficult to get out. So if any of you have debt, say you got 40, 50, $60,000 worth of debt, in your mind, you paying the principal or the interest, and you can't even fathom one day like, oh no, it's gonna take me 20 years to get rid of this stuff because you're not focused on your profits and how to get back to that's a whole nother conversation. So
I say the way we built this breeding program is literally like a business. You know, you have to anything you do, put your heart and love into, you need to treat it as a business because that's going to help you exceed and see the data throughout the years. You can't have just a drawer of fucking paperwork and be like, oh yeah, I've been doing this 15 years. All right, what have you done? Well, I bred this bloodline, blah blah blah. Like, where's the data? Where's the paper? Where's the DNA profile? Where's the P&Ls? Where's your invoices? Where's your semen stock? Where do you getting your dogs? Like, where's your next plans for the next 10 years? All these things. I mean, I can make a fucking list of 100 things. You literally have to get an LCC, start from scratch. You want to get into breeding, get your dog, and start building a
mm,
business. My whole thing was to plan 30 years out. I just went through all my paperwork. I have semen to last me 50 plus years.
mm,
So Cincinnati Pits isn't just a breeding program, it's a longevity business that I can literally stop tomorrow and pick back up in 10 years from now and still keep rocking the exact same way we were. Pick back up with the followings the phone calls with pedigree, put a breeding together and sell it out, super quickly because everybody knows where we came from, what we've done, what we've done to improve the dogs, the consistency within the litters. These things are what you need to think about, not just who your next stud's going to be. Try to keep rights to every dog you possibly produce. That's going to give you a huge benefit uh,
there
off
you
the start.
there you have it, man. I mean, it's those little things that go a long way, man. Dang, my screen's black, huh?
Yeah,
Oh, so they can't see me. Can they hear me though?
yeah. Oh, I can hear you. I don't know if they can.
Yeah,
It
I'm
says
looking at.
tap fans. So, oh man, I'm new at this shit.
Oh no, you keep doing what you're doing.
Top fans. Uh, but yeah, we basically if I want to give you guys enough rough draft of how to start, find the breeding, find the breeder that you want to buy your first dog for. Do the research on the lines behind that dog so you can see what it produces, what they produce. In my sense, I'm not looking to change anything, and a lot of people do. A lot of people want to add this and be different and be the next, number one breeder in the world. That was never our intent or goal.
Yeah,
That don't mean nothing to us. It's all about the dogs. It literally is all about the dogs. I mean, I don't give a shit if you like me or not. You don't need to like me. And what I tell people all the time is somebody will be like, oh, they'll message my wife and questions. She's like, oh, ask Chris. He can better answer that. Oh, I just don't want to waste his time. I don't want to bother him. What do you mean don't bother him? And then I can't shit you not. Like, it just happened too many times. It makes me laugh. But they're like, oh, you're just kind of intimidating to talk to. I'm like, I'm just gonna give you the straight answer, man. Like, if you
hey,
want
look,
me to,
people. The fastest
we
way to
don't
get to.
sugarcoat nothing.
Hey, look, what
I'm
he
an East
said
Coast
is,
villain, man. I'm straightforward. This is how it is, and I
hey,
talk loud. It
yeah,
don't mean I'm bad.
and the best way to get to B is to talk to A, and then if B tells you to talk to A so you can get to C, you got to go back to A. So it's always start with A because we can get you there a lot quicker, and that's
Which
the
is the
pleasure or
source.
beauty.
Go to the source.
Yeah, it's just go to the source, man, and that's why I'm
Yeah.
talking to the source now about everything that goes into the line breeding. So mind you, this is a light introduction. I think just even this week, Chris, I'm gonna live on live primarily this week. So when you got
Yeah.
time, man, I want to continue this conversation because I mean, we're at 36 minutes and it's rocking. To be clear, man, you have
Yeah. Let me
killed
know
it.
what you want to break down. We'll talk about whatever subject you like. I mean, this, like I told you before, what was it like a year ago? We started doing a live. We did our first live. I literally do everything. And still right now, there's a lot of things that you ask me questions on. I don't know how to properly answer because, like I told you before, I'm like a nerd in my office. Like, I just sit here and I don't talk to nobody. I don't have anybody to speak um, to get knowledge from or get advice from. So I have to figure everything out myself. And I gotta go look back at the paperwork. I gotta look back at the breedings. I mean, I have a drawer full of all the litters I've done, what productions. You get the little list of the UKC. I use that. I literally put every single person's name, information that got a pup from us, and boom, I can go back to their Instagram. Oh, it's down. Boom, I send them a text. Oh, they got a new number. I'll send them an email. So I always have a contact information where I can get them in hold of them. Like, hey, do you have a picture of your dog? How's your dog going? Blah blah blah, and see like, oh shit, I had a dog. Wow, this dog turned out like this. Blah blah blah, so I don't know how to explain it right, but you definitely have to keep the data, keep your paperwork consistent because that is what you're going to look. I mean, there's many documents that I go back and I look at, so it's hard to explain a lot of things, a lot of
No, it's
questions
not.
you
It's
ask
not,
me,
man. You
but
do a very good job, and what
I
every
have the
time.
data.
Yeah, you saying
And
that, my friend, but you do a very good job, and that's what people like me are here for. Chris Moore, he would probably argue that he has some of the same challenges. He just knows. But when I'm
Yeah,
there, I think a lot of people learn because of the way in which I ask questions, and with the right formula of questions, we get to where okay, that makes sense, and then that's my job, as a person who complements your
yeah,
knowledge and
yeah,
your experience to bridge the gap. And I'm like,
yeah.
man,
You got all the words and the knowledge to explain
hey,
it better than I
that's my
do.
thing.
That's
My
for
my
sure.
my real obsession is communication and branding and stuff. So,
Yeah,
guys, we appreciate everybody who's been on here. We do hope you've learned something, and even more importantly, take something away from this. Shout out to Sin City Pits, man. As I said, you guys want to. He's got a couple breedings left, and then he's going to leave the this side of the world on the breeder side. He's going to be someone that I for sure communicate with. If you guys have big questions, as I said, we'll answer full videos with super chats. Super chats are the way we're going to go because we're going to get into this
yeah,
streaming space heavy. And part of it being heavy is making sure that the camera's almost always fucking rolling because our life is a fucking show. And there's more times you don't see what's going on than you do. But with guys like Chris and others and things we've got planned, we said, dude, we might as well just keep the like the stream going, And when you can learn from guys who've got 20 years plus in the space, I don't want to call it a game because there's no tech game, there's no car game, there's no. It's like, bro,
yeah,
you either know business or you don't. But the basis of the business is making sure that you put great dogs into great homes. And what I love about Chris specifically is there's nothing about his program that is driven by pride or ego. And what that means is most people get these styles of dogs to beat on their chest and say, look at me. um, that personally makes someone like me sick, which is another reason I said I'm good on this shit. I don't even, because we don't weigh dogs, I don't measure heads. I want to see what the dog can do, and
Same, same. I
I'm
mean, I do it for the staff. Goal oriented. It's not something we
That's the big thing,
look
man. And the
we
big
breed for.
question we ask every time is, what can we make a good dog and make somebody's enrich somebody's life? And enrichment is the key to really being successful. Amazon enriches our lives.
Art.
These cell phones enrich our lives. Depending on what you can afford, grocery store wise, Whole Foods enriches your life. There's so many things that can enrich one's life, and that's the premise and basis of business. So, guys, stay tuned, because I think Wednesday, if you got time, and potentially tomorrow, depending on what you got going on.
What's it? Moth 8 DN. We are not the owners of Bellagio. That is Sin City Bullies. We are Sin City Pits. Completely different dogs. We breed American Terriers, not bullies.
There you have it, guys. Now, guys, follow this guy on all platforms, Sin City Pits. Make sure you subscribe to his channel. As I said, he's on his way out, but we're going to keep him highlighted. I think his information can't go anywhere. So it's no, even if he never bred another dog tomorrow, he probably have more information than the average person, whatever, because he committed 10 plus years of his life to just learning and working through the challenges like any great business owner would. But subscribe.
13 years. It'll be 14 years when we throw the towel in.
There you have it, man. There, and it's no towel. It's just you got to move. You got to move.
Yeah.
You got to move forward, man. You got to. People don't know that
Or
neither.
extremely pods. You know, we done 38 breedings, over 300 productions. Uh, we're gonna put the place up for sale. Nobody buys it in 10 years. We might just pick back up where we left off.
Boom, guys. Listen, as always, take care of your dogs, Chris. We will talk, my friend. Be safe. All right.
Yes, sir. Thank you all.